Hello. Today I'm going to read from my translation of Andrev Walden's Bloody Awful in Different Ways, which has just come out with Fig Tree. It was first published 2 years ago in Swedish with the title Jävla karlar, and it went on to win the 2023 August Prize, as well as becoming the best-selling Swedish novel of the year. This is all the more remarkable given that it was Andrev's debut novel. Bloody Awful is a semi-autobiographical work. As Andrev says in his own opening, if anything sounds made up, then you can be sure that it's true, like the thing with the rat and the hamster, or the girl with the barbecue Spice Clan lips. I don't intend to make up anything in particular, because the particulars stick in the memory and don't need making up. If I do make anything up, then it's tucked away in the most mundane parts, like the colour of a cushion on a sun lounger in a fisherman's hut, where something of note took place. In the novel, we follow a young Andrev navigating a childhood in which he has 7 dads in 7 years. Of course, many of these dads are nothing of the sort, and they're really just men passing through Andrev's mother's life, and by extension his. While this might sound dark, it's beautifully written, and it's laugh out loud funny in many places. It's been a real struggle to pick a passage to read to you, so I thought it was best to start early with an introduction to our first dad in the book, the plant magician. I fear that your mind's eye may already be lingering upon some kind of druid clad in a wadmal tunic, but he didn't dress like that. The man I called Dad wore blue dungarees and gloves of earth. In the summer, he wore nothing else. In the winter, he donned Graninger boots and a vegetable-dyed woolly jumper worn over the braces. My mother had dyed the wool. While you repaint the picture in your mind's eye, I want to emphasise the bit about him being beautiful. You've got to make him beautiful, otherwise the logic around him falls apart. He was the kind of man that beautiful women knit woolly jumpers for. He was the kind of magician who gets laid. That much I know for sure, because I saw him do it. Love shouldn't be hidden from children, he said, letting us tumble about the bed while he had sex with our mother. I scrambled to the foot of the bed and listened to their breathing. I didn't like it. He made her sound like a witch. I was afraid that she would have a witch's face if I looked, so I didn't. Instead, I allowed my gaze to roam over the walls. There was a peculiar painting hanging over the bed. The god of seasons. He had pea pods for eyelids, corn cobs for ears, spring onions for shoulders, and a whopping big squash in shades of grey and green for a chest. He was formidable to look at, an apple-cheeked demon. But the plant magician swore he was good. When the witch sounds had fallen silent, he stood up and touched the frame, as if thanking the demon, before stepping into his dungarees and disappearing into the garden. He always had plenty to be cracking on with, and his mission on Earth was important. So important that the state paid him a wage to devote himself to it. The man I called Dad was a state-remunerated plant magician. You don't have to be of a conservative disposition for that sentence to take your breath away. So before your lips turn blue, I'd like to add that the state didn't really know what my dad did, and that he would probably have got the sack from his job as a state-remunerated plant magician had the state discovered what he spent his working days doing. Or indeed, had the state even found out that his days were spent working. You see, somewhere in the drawers of state there was a piece of paper stating that my dad was unable to work and needed to be paid not to do so. He was an invalid, although only on that piece of paper. In reality, he was remarkably frisky. One morning, he awoke with a sudden desire to run to Vestervik, so after breakfast he set off. At the time, we lived in Gamleby, but it was still a long way to Vestervik, and he made it almost all the way. Towards the afternoon, a stranger from Hermanstorp called and said there was a man lying in his garden and that we would have to come and get him. Mum and the stranger helped carry him to the car. He couldn't walk, but he was beaming away like a winner. The plant magician often beamed like a winner because he was a winner. He had outsmarted and defeated the system, and his contentment at this victory was always more powerful than his fear of being caught out and about. He was a proud and incautious member of the resistance. As soon as he found an ear that he hadn't yet heard the story about what happened when he defeated the system, he would take a deep breath and tell it. Now, you quite probably want to hear that story and find out more about the magic itself, and rightly so, given that you, or at least your parents, funded it. But I'll have to slip all that in along the way, because what the story needs right now is to be enriched by movement and direction. So let me tell you about the day when I ceased to be his son. Bloody Awful in Different Ways by Andrev Walden is out now in my translation and published by Fig Tree.